My name is Emily Carter, and these days, people whisper it with admiration, sometimes even awe. My calendar is booked months in advance. My face is splashed across glossy magazines, and my inbox overflows with invitations I never dreamed would find me. Yet, even in all this success, I carry a silence inside me, truths I never shared, scars that never fully faded. This morning, sunlight filters through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Manhattan office, painting gold across the polished oak desk. My silk blouse clings lightly against my skin, the faint perfume of roses trailing from me as I lean back in my chair. I'm reviewing a contract when my phone buzzes. Once, then again, insistent. The name flashing on the screen makes my stomach tighten. It's her. The voice I still hear in my nightmares. The laughter that once rang louder than any applause I've received since. My throat dries as I stare at the screen. After all these years, why now? I let the phone buzz in my hand, my manicured nails tapping against the glass. A strange cocktail of emotions surges. Hurt, pride, resilience, and, if I'm honest, a touch of irony. Because if there's one thing the universe does well, it's serving poetic justice. They mocked my skills, and yet here I am, a household name. I was 17 when the laughter first carved itself into my bones. Back then, I wasn't Emily Carter, entrepreneur, speaker, creator. I was just Emily, the awkward girl with a sketchbook always tucked under her arm, the one who loved design, color, and detail more than gossip or cheerleading practice. In our small Ohio town, practicality was a religion. Dreams were hobbies, and skills meant accounting, nursing, or law. Anything else? A waste of time. I remember the afternoon as if it happened yesterday, standing in the school auditorium, nervously holding my portfolio during career day. My palms were slick with sweat as I displayed my designs, patterns, logos, little concepts I'd poured myself into. The response? Laughter. Seriously, Emily, one boy snorted. You think doodling is a career? Another girl chimed in. Guess we'll all be hiring you to decorate our notebooks in college. Even the teacher's polite smile felt like pity. My throat burned, my chest tightened, and I forced myself to stand tall while inside I was crumbling. That night at dinner, I tried to share my dream with my parents. My father barely looked up from his plate. Graphic design? Come on, Emily. That's not a real job. You need stability. My mother sighed, her voice soft but dismissive. Honey, people like us don't make it in those fields. Find something safer. The lump in my throat nearly choked me. I excused myself, retreating to my room where the sting of their words replayed endlessly. I wanted to scream, to tear up every sketch, to quit before I embarrassed myself further. But then my grandmother knocked softly and slipped inside. She was the only one who ever truly listened. Without a word, she handed me a small leather notebook, its pages blank, its cover worn with age. For your ideas, she whispered, brushing my cheek. The world may laugh now, but every great woman I've known has been laughed at first. Her words sank deep, like a seed finding soil. I clutched that notebook like armor. The very next day, while everyone else was celebrating college acceptance letters, I made a decision. If no one else believed in me, I would believe in myself. Their mockery would not be my ending. It would be the fuel for my beginning. With trembling hands but steady resolve, I opened that notebook and wrote 3 words across the first page. Watch me rise. The road forward wasn't glamorous. It was lonely, exhausting, and often humiliating. After high school, while many of my classmates headed off to big universities, I enrolled in a small community college program for digital arts. My parents barely acknowledged it, shaking their heads as if I were wasting tuition on drawing with computers. I stopped telling them about my classes altogether. Most nights, I worked late shifts at a diner, my fingers smelling of grease and coffee. I'd stumble home with aching feet, then hunch over my laptop until dawn, teaching myself Photoshop, Illustrator, branding techniques, anything I could find online. My eyes stung, my nails chipped, but every new skill felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Self-doubt was my constant companion. I remember one night staring at my screen, tears blurring the design I was creating, whispering to myself, maybe they were right. Maybe I'm not enough. That's when I met Monica Reyes, my first true mentor. She was a visiting lecturer, a powerhouse in marketing with a sharp mind and an even sharper bob haircut. She noticed my work one afternoon during critique. Instead of the usual polite nod, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Emily, you've got vision. Don't let small minds talk you out of big dreams." Her words cracked something open inside me. For the first time, someone outside my grandmother saw potential. Monica invited me to assist her on a small freelance project, a local bakery rebrand. It wasn't much, but when I presented my design and the owners cried tears of joy, I felt something electric course through me. This wasn't just art. This was impact. From there, I hustled. I built a portfolio from scratch, taking on odd jobs, flyers for hair salons, logos for indie bands, social media graphics for small shops. Each project was a tiny win, each check, no matter how small, proof that my doodles could pay bills. Still, I kept my growing success hidden. On Facebook, I'd post vague updates, busy week, or excited about new opportunities, never specifics. When family gatherings rolled around, I'd shrug off questions about my future with a practiced smile. The truth was too fragile to expose to their judgment. But behind the scenes, momentum built. My designs began circulating online. A small tech startup in Chicago hired me to brand their launch campaign, and the project went viral within their niche. Suddenly, I was fielding inquiries from clients I'd never dreamed would know my name. I poured every penny back into my work, better software, courses, even a rented co-working space, so I could feel professional. The late nights never ended, but now they buzzed with adrenaline instead of despair. One night, I opened my grandmother's notebook again. Its pages were now filled with sketches, ideas, even affirmations scrawled in tired handwriting. On the last page, I wrote, "One day they'll see." Not because I told them, but because the world will. By the time I turned 23, Emily Carter wasn't just the girl with a sketchbook. I was quietly building an empire, one design at a time. And though the world had begun to whisper my name, my family remained in the dark. For now. It happened on a rainy Thursday, years later. By then, my name had quietly slipped into households across America. Brands carried my logos. Magazines featured my campaigns. Celebrities wore designs I had a hand in crafting. I was no longer the girl mocked for her doodles. I was Emily Carter, creative director of one of the fastest rising design firms in New York City. The invitation went out as part of a new product launch, a collaboration I had orchestrated between my agency and a global fashion house. It was to be unveiled in Manhattan at an event buzzing with press, influencers, and industry leaders. I didn't expect my family to come, but there they were, walking into the grand glass atrium, their umbrellas dripping rainwater onto the marble floor. I spotted them instantly, my parents, stiff and cautious, flanked by two old classmates who had once laughed loudest at my career day portfolio. My chest tightened, not with fear but with something sharper, anticipation. I watched from the mezzanine as their eyes scanned the room. Every surface shimmered with elegance, crystal chandeliers reflecting light across sleek white walls, velvet drapes pooling like rivers of ink, digital screens flashing the bold new campaign my firm had designed. My work, my vision everywhere. They didn't see me at first. They only saw the name plastered in golden letters across every display, Carter Creative Agency. Confusion flickered across my father's face. My mother tilted her head, squinting as if she might be imagining it. My former classmates whispered to each other, their smugness faltering. That's when the announcer's voice boomed through the atrium. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and creative director, Emily Carter." The crowd erupted into applause as I stepped into the spotlight. My heels clicked against the polished stage floor, my black gown hugging me like armor. I caught sight of my family's faces, shock, disbelief, and something else. The dawning realization that the girl they had dismissed was now commanding a room full of power. I paused, letting silence work its magic. I could feel their eyes tracing every detail, the diamond studs at my ears, the confident curve of my posture, the warmth of the smile I offered the crowd. This was the moment I had promised myself, the moment my grandmother's words had prepared me for. "Thank you," I began, my voice steady but resonant, filling the hall. Years ago, I was told my skills were nothing more than a waste of time, that they'd never build a future, never pay the bills. Tonight, standing here, I think we can all agree those voices were wrong. A ripple of laughter and applause broke through the audience. I let my gaze rest briefly on my family. My mother's lips parted as if she wanted to speak but couldn't. My father's hands fidgeted at his sides. My old classmates avoided eye contact, suddenly fascinated by the floor. I continued, "Every design you see tonight, every piece of this campaign, every detail of this agency was built from the skill they once mocked. And yet, here we are, celebrating what those very skills created." The applause thundered louder, but I wasn't finished. I stepped closer to the edge of the stage, lowering my tone to something more intimate, almost confessional. The truth is, mockery doesn't destroy dreams. It fuels them. Every doubt, every laugh, every dismissal became the fire that carried me here. I raised my chin, the lights catching the confidence in my eyes. "So, to those who once doubted me, thank you. Because without you, I wouldn't have become Emily Carter, a household name." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Cameras flashed. And in the crowd, my family stood frozen, faces pale, jaws slack, their disbelief turning into something heavier.
Shame, guilt, awe.
And for the first time, I didn't shrink under their gaze. I stood taller. After the event ended, the crowd trickled out, leaving behind a hum of lingering conversations and the fading scent of champagne. My family didn't leave. They lingered awkwardly near the back, unsure whether to approach me or slip quietly out the door. I walked toward them, my heels echoing across the marble. For once, they were the nervous ones. My father cleared his throat. My mother clutched her purse as if it were a shield. My old classmates, well, they avoided my eyes completely. "Emily," my mother began, her voice brittle. "We had no idea." I smiled, not unkindly. "You weren't supposed to." Silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable. Finally, my father spoke, his tone softer than I remembered. "We may not have believed in you, but we see now. You've built something extraordinary." There it was, the first admission. Not quite an apology, but a crack in the wall. I let the moment hang before replying. "I didn't build this to prove you wrong. I built it because I believed in myself when no one else did. That's the difference." They shifted uneasily, shame creeping into their posture. My classmates mumbled something that sounded like "congrats," though it was barely audible. I studied them, remembering every cruel word, every smirk, every dismissal. And yet, revenge wasn't what I wanted. What I wanted was change. So I laid out my terms. "If you want to be part of my life now, it won't be on the old terms. I'm not the insecure girl you once mocked. If you sit at my table, you come with respect." Their eyes widened, but I continued, my voice calm, steady and firm. "Dad, if you want to rebuild our relationship, you need to stop dismissing dreams that don't look like yours. You need to listen, not lecture." He swallowed hard and nodded, the weight of truth sinking in. "Mom, you always played peacemaker, but silence in the face of cruelty is still cruelty. If you want closeness with me, I need honesty, not quiet nods." Her eyes shimmered, guilt and regret mingling in the sheen of tears. Then I turned to my classmates. "You laughed at me when I was chasing something you couldn't see. If you want my respect now, prove you can lift others instead of tearing them down. Use your voices for encouragement, not mockery." They stared at the ground, red-faced, but I didn't soften the words. I wasn't cruel. My tone was steady, laced with compassion, but it was compassion edged with boundaries. "I don't need apologies," I said finally. "I need to see actions.
Change. Growth.
That's the only way forward." For the first time in years, they didn't argue. They simply nodded, each of them processing the conditions I'd set. It struck me then this wasn't about payback. It was about reclaiming my voice, my worth, my power. And in that moment, I knew I had it. In the weeks that followed, I noticed subtle shifts. My father, once quick to dismiss anything outside his narrow definition of success, called me one evening just to ask about my latest project. There was no lecture, no critique, just curiosity. It was awkward, but it was a start. My mother began sending me little messages. Proud of you. Saw your ad today. Thinking of you. They were small gestures, but each one softened something inside me that I thought had hardened forever. Even my former classmates surprised me. One of them emailed to say she had finally started pursuing the art degree she once abandoned. I remembered what you said, she wrote, about using our voices for encouragement. I want to try again. I didn't reply immediately, but I smiled. That was the point, wasn't it? To break cycles, not repeat them. One evening, after a long day at the office, I pulled out the worn leather notebook my grandmother had given me years ago. Its pages were filled now, sketches, branding concepts, fragments of affirmations written during sleepless nights. I traced the faded edges of the cover, remembering the girl who once clutched it like a lifeline. Her voice came back to me, gentle and unwavering. Every great woman I've known has been laughed at first. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply. She had been right. The laughter hadn't destroyed me. It had shaped me. It had pushed me to build something no one could ignore. Standing by the window, I looked out at the Manhattan skyline glittering against the night. For the first time, I felt not just accomplished, but whole. The scars remained, yes, but they were no longer wounds. They were proof. Proof that I had survived, grown, and risen. As I set the notebook back on the shelf, I whispered aloud, almost as if she could hear me. They mocked my skills, but those very skills carved my name into every home. And with that I smiled, not with bitterness, but with grace. Because I was no longer the girl they doubted. I was Emily Carter, a household name,